Hi guys, so I know it's got a bit darker, I just turned that light off because I'm sweating so badly. So I'm just going to read you chapter 4, A Visit to the Grandmothers, from his book Heidi in the Logger. And it's 16 pages, so it'll probably take about 16 minutes to read it. Yeah, fun. I don't even know how many pages on it. 349. It's supposed to take you 9 hours to read it. So, this will be good, won't it? Take over 9 minutes, so 9 hours will probably take about, 15. Just so I can work out at these. And then, let's just read them out loud. No, record it on my phone. So yeah, get into it. Can't even read it. Cut it off. I need it on, don't need it on this. I'm also going right, now I can read. Read this out. Right, so let's go. All through the summer, Heidi went up to the path every day and Peter and the grass grew brown as berries in the mountain sunshine. She grew such health and strongly and carefree as the birds in her new life. When the autumn came, strong wind began to blow, and her grandfather said, "Today we must go stay at home. A little thing like it might be easy to get blow over the side of the mountain by a gusty wind." Peter had always been very disappointed when Heidi did not go with him. He had grown so used to her company that he found it terribly dull to be by himself, and of course he missed a good bread and cheese she always shared with him. The goats were twice as troublesome too when she wasn't there. They seemed to miss her and scattered all over the place and know they were looking for her. But Heidi was happy wherever she was. Of course she loved going up to the mountain, where there was always so much to see, but she also enjoyed going around with her grandfather, watching him and his carpenter and all the other jobs. She specifically liked to see him mix the goat's milk cheese. He rolled up his sleeves and plunged his arms deep into a big pond of milk, which he stirred through with his hands until it drew across. He produced a delicious lamb cheese. But what she liked most of all was the noise the wind made of the old fern tree. She often left what she was doing to go and stand under them, with their faces turned up, listening and watching to the slow branches as the wind whistled and whirled through them. The wind blew right through her too, though now the weather was cooler. She wore socks and shoes and put a dress once more. The strange music in the tree tops and the special fascination for her, and she could not stay indoors when she heard it. All at once to turn into ridicule, and Peter arrived his man flew off her hands to warm them. Then one night it started to snow, and in the morning everything was white. It snowed until there was no more single green leaf to be seen, and of course Peter didn't bring the goats up from the wind, though Heidi watched with delight as the snow fell faster and faster, and the snow drifted higher and till the hut was buried up in the window sill, and it was impossible to go out. She was hoping it would go on falling until the hut was completely covered, so that she would have to light the lamp during the day. But that did not happen. Next morning her grandfather was able to dig his way out and shovel the snow away from the walls, grew up green piles of it from his spade and worked. Then in the afternoon he and Heidi sat down by the fire. Each of the three-legged stool, for of course he had a long he had long ago made one for her. Then were interrupted by a great bang at the door, and through someone was kicking it. Then it was opened, and stood there with Peter knocking the snow off his boot before coming in. He had had to fight his way through the high drift, and it was cold, and the snow was frozen, and he still clung to his clothes. But he had kept bravely and determined to get Heidi after not seeing her for a whole week. "Hello," he said, and went and straight over to the trouble. He didn't say anything more, but stood gleaming at them, well pleased to be there. As he watched, he astonished as he hated as the storm began to thaw and the snow, so it trickled off him in a steady flow. "Well, generally," said the old man. "How are you getting on now? And you've been leaving your army and started chewing a pencil with interest." "Yes, in the winter. Peter has to go to school and learn to read and write. It's no easy matter, you know." "It's no easy matter, you know, and it sometimes helps a bit to chew a pencil, doesn't it, generally?" "Yeah, it does," agreed Peter. Maybe Heidi wanted to know just what he did at school. Peter always found it difficult to put his thoughts into words, and Heidi had so many questions to ask, and no sooner had he managed to deal with one than soon as she was ready, 2, 3, and more. Most of them needed a whole sentence in reply. His clothes were quite dry again before she was satisfied. The old man listened quietly to their chat, smiling from time to time. As soon as they fell silent, he got up and went over to the cupboard. "Well, generally, you've been under fire. Now you'll need some refreshments," he said. He soon had supper ready, and Heidi put chairs around the table. The hut was left bare now, and the first arrived, the grandfather had made a bench which was fixed to the wall, and the other seat big enough for 2 people. But Heidi always liked to be closely beside him. Now they could all sit down in comfort, and Peter did so. He opened his round eyes very widely. A huge piece of dried meat that Uncle put a thick slice of bread for him. It was a long time since he had such a good meal. As soon as they finished eating, Peter got ready to go on down. "Goodbye," he said, "and thank you. I'll come again next Sunday, and my grandmother said she would like you to come and see her." Heidi was delighted at the idea of going to visit someone, for that would be something quite new. So the first thing she said next morning, "Grandfather, I must go see Peter's grandmother today. She'll be expecting me." "The snow's too deep," said Uncle, trying to put her off. But the idea was firm in her head, and day after day she said at least half a dozen times that she really must go, or the grandmother would be tired of waiting for her. And for the 4th day after Peter's visit, the, the snow froze hard and crackled underfoot, and the sun was shining brightly on Heidi's face, and she sat up on her head, finishing her dinner again, said, "I must go and see the grandmother today. I still think I'm not coming." Her grandfather left the table, went to the loft, from which he brought down a thick sack off her bed. "Come on then," he said, and they went out together. Heidi skipped lightly in a shiny white world. The branches of the fern tree were weighed down with snow, which sparkled in the sunlight. Heidi had never seen anything like that. "Just look at the tree," she said. "They're all gold and silver." Meanwhile, Grandpa had dragged a big sledge out of the shed. It was a bar long beside, and it steered by pressing the heels against the ground on one of the sides or the other. To please Heidi, he went down with her to look at the snow-plowed trees. Then he sat down on the sledge with his knees well wrapped in the sack to keep him warm. He held her tightly with his left arm, and taking hold of the bar with the right, pushing off with both feet. went down the mountain so fast that Heidi felt as though she was flying and screamed with delight. They stopped with a jerk just outside Peter's hut. Grandfather set her on her feet and took off the sack. "Now go in," he said, "but start for home as soon as it begins to get dark." Then he turned back up the mountain, pulled the sled behind him. The door Heidi opened led into a small kitchen in which was a stove and some pots on the shelf. A second door opened into another low little room. Compared with Grandfather's hut, it's a fine big room and a hayloft. Above the place seemed Retro's camp. She went in and saw the woman sitting at the table mending a jacket, which she recognized as Peter's. In one corner, another woman, old and bent, was spinning. Heidi went straight to see her and said, "Hello, Grandmother. Here I am at last. I expected you that I was never coming." The grandmother raised her head and felt for Heidi's hand. When she had found it, she held it in her own for a while and then said, "Are you that child for Uncle Al? Are you Heidi?" "Yes, and father just brought me down, and I said, fancy that. And yet your hand's so warm, Bridget. Did Uncle Al really bring you himself?" Peter's mother left her mending to come and looked at the child. "I don't know, Mother," she said. "It does not sound likely. She must be mistaken." Heidi looked straight in the eyes and said firmly, "I'm not mistaken. I was Grandfather. He wrapped me up in a blanket and brought me down himself." Well, Peter must have been right after all. He told us about Uncle Al," said the grandmother. "We always thought he had gone wrong. Who had believed to tell the truth? I didn't think the child I would last 3 weeks up there. What does she look like, Bridget?" "She's thin, like her mother was, but she's got black eyes and curly hair like Tobias and the old man. She's really more like them, I think." Heidi looked about the room while the women were talking, and her sharply eye missed nothing. "One of your shutters is hanging loose, Grandmother," she remarked. "Grandfather would soon mend it, and it'll break the window if nothing's done about it. Look how banged to and from." "I can't see it, my dear, but I can hear it very well, and everything else that creaks and clatters here when the wind blew, and the cracks and the places fall to pieces in the night where the other two are sleeping. I'm often afraid of something that falls on us, kills us, and then no one to do anything about it. Peter didn't know how." "Why, can't you see the shutter?" said Heidi, pointing it. "Look, there it goes again." "I can't see it at all, child." "It's not only the shutter," she said. The old woman sighed. "If I go out and pull the shutter right back so that it is really light in here, you'll be able to see, won't you?" "No, not even then. Light and dark makes no difference to me. But if you come out in the shiny white snow, I'm sure you'll see them. Come and see, Heidi. Come and see." Heidi took the old woman's hand and tried to pull her, but she was very upset at the thought that she'd never see anything. "Let me be, child. I can't see any better even in light of snow. It's always dark, even in the summer, Grandmother," Heidi persisted anxiously. "Surely you can see the sunshine and watch it good night in the mountains under the red fire, can't you?" "No, child, nor that either. I shall never see them again." Heidi burst into tears. "Can't anyone make you see?" she sobbed. "Isn't there anyone who can?" For any time she tried to feign the comfort Heidi hardly even cried, but she always seemed difficult to stop her. The old woman got quite worried. At last she said, "Come here, my dear, and listen to me. I can't see, but I can hear. And when one is blind, it is good to hear a friendly voice, and yours I love already. Come and sit beside me and tell me what you and your grandfather do in the mountain. I used to know him well, but I haven't heard of anything of him in years, except what Peter tells us, and that's not much." Heidi dried her tears, saw a rail of coat, just waiting till I tell Grandfather about you. He'll be able to make make you see, and he'll mend the hut too. He can do anything." The grandfather did not contact her, and Heidi began to chatter away, telling her everything. Grandfather was at making things, and the stool and the chair, and managed a new goat, and even a bathtub and water bowl. Yes, and spoon. All wood. The grandmother understood her voice. How eager she must have been watching his work. "I'd like to be able to make things like that myself one day," Heidi ended up. "Did you hear that, Bridget?" the grandmother asked her daughter. "Fancy Uncle doing that." Suddenly the outer door banged and Peter burst into the room. He pulled out a short step when he saw Heidi, and then gave a friendly grin, and she greeted him. "What, back from school already?" she said to grandmother. "It's years since I've known an afternoon pass so quickly." "Well, Peter King, how are you getting on with your reading?" "Just the same," he replied. "Oh dear," she sighed. "I hope you're making something different to tell me by now. You'll be 12 in February." "What to tell you? What do you mean?" said Heidi, all interested. "Only that perhaps you'd learn to read at last. There's an old prayer book on the shelf with some beautiful hymns in it. I haven't heard them for a very long time and can't repeat them any more to myself. I keep hoping Peter King will be able to read them to me, but he doesn't seem able to learn. It's too difficult for him. I think I must like the Lancer Bridget, who had been darning at away. That afternoon had passed so quickly I hadn't noticed getting dark. Heidi jumped up at that. "If it's getting dark I must go," she said. "Goodbye, grandmother," she said to the others while leaving the grandmother polishing. "Wait a minute, Heidi. You can't go alone. Peter will come with you and see you don't fall. And don't stand about and let her get cold. There's something warm to put on." "No, haven't," Heidi told her, "but I shan't be cold," and she ran off so fast that Peter could hardly keep pace with her. "Bridget, take a shawl and run after her," cried the grandmother in distress. "She'll freeze to death with bitter cold," and Bridget took it and went off after them. But the children had only gone a little while up the mountain, and they saw the uncle striding towards them, and almost at once they were together. "Good girl, you did as you were told," he said. Then he had wrapped her up in a sack, picked her up in the arm, and turned forward. Bridget was just in time to see what happened, and she went back indoors with Peter to go describing the crazy sight to her mother. "Thank God the child is all right," from the old woman. "I hope that uncle will let her home to see again. Her visiting has done me a deal of good. What kind of heart the little one! How pleasant she chattered." The grandmother was a very good spirit. "I hope she comes again," she said several times the evening. "It would be something to look forward to." "Yes, indeed," agreed Bridget, each time while Peter grinned broadly and said, "Told you so." And out on the mountain Heidi was chattering away inside a sack to her grandfather, though he couldn't hear a word in the eightfold thickness. "Wait till we're home and then tell me," he said. As soon as they were indoors and Heidi had been unwrapped, she began. "Tomorrow we must take a hammer and some big nails down to Peter's house so that we can see and mend the grandmother's shutters, and lots of other things too, because her whole house creaks and rattles." "Oh, must we? Who told you to say that?" "Nobody told me. I just know the shutters and doors and all the things are loose and bang about, and the grandmother was very frightened and can't sleep. She's afraid the house will fall on top of her, and then she's afraid she can't see, and she says no one can make her better. But I'm sure you can, grandfather. Fancy not being able to see and being frightened too. We'll go and help her tomorrow, won't we?" She was clinging to the old man and looked at him confidently. He glared back for a moment and then said, "Well, we can at least stop the Suddenly they could all see this loud bangs on the wall, which so startled the grandmother and almost knocked her spinning wheel over. This time the place was really falling down, she cried tremulously. Heidi took hold of her arm and said, "Don't be afraid, grandmother. That's only grandfather with his hammer. He mended everything, so that you won't be frightened anymore." It's true, God hasn't forgotten about us after all. Can you hear it, Bridget? It really does sound like a hammer. Go on and see who it is, and if it's Uncle Al, ask him to come in so I can thank him. It was Uncle Al, and of course Bridget found him nailing a wedge in the pierced wood and in the wall. "Good day, Uncle Al," she said. "Mother and I are grateful for you for helping us like this, and Mother would like you to thank you. So, if you'll step inside, I'm sure no one else would have done as much for us, and we won't forget." But he interrupted her roughly. "That's enough," he said. "I know quite well what you really think of me. Go indoors. I can see for myself what she wants to," and Bridget turned it away, not liking this disobedience to him, and he went on hammering him away all the way to the wall. Then he climbed up to the roof and mended some holes there till he had used up all the nails he had brought with him. By this time it was growing dark, and he took the sledge out of the goat stall where he had left it, and just as Heidi came to find him, he wrapped her up, carried her as he'd done every evening before. Though he had also to drag a sleigh behind him, he knew it would not be safe for her to ride up on it without him beside her, for the wind was soon blown the covering away, and she would have been frozen. So he pulled it after him, with one hand holding Heidi's face and Mom in the other hand. So the winter went, and poor blind grandmother was happy again. After so many dark years for now, she had something pleased to look forward to. Every day she looked for Heidi's light steps in the doors and the little girl. "Praise be," she said. Then Heidi would sit and chat merrily away. The hours passed so quickly, and grandmother never once had to ask Bridget, "Isn't the day nearly over?" Instead, after Heidi had left, she often remarked, "Wasn't that a short afternoon?" said Bridget. "Wouldn't you agree? It seemed like no time since she had cleared away after dinner." God keep the child safe, and that Anne is good in humour. Was the old woman could see print. She often asked Bridget if the child looked well, so Bridget was able to reply, "She looks like a rosy apple." Heidi grew very fond of Peter's grandmother, and when she understood that no one could make her see again, she was very sad. But as the grandmother told her over and over again that she didn't mind being blind nearly so much when Heidi was with her, she came down on the sledge with her grandfather every day. She always brought the hammer and nails and any other materials needed, and gradually he repaired the whole cottage so that the grandmother was no longer afraid by the night time.